It started on an ordinary evening. The sky over the desolate desert planet had an unusual glow, faint and wavering, like the heartbeat of something far away. The crew stationed at the remote outpost had grown used to strange anomalies, but tonight, even the seasoned watchers felt a twinge of unease. The air was dry and sharp, carrying a silence so deep it seemed to press against the skin. The only sounds were the soft hum of the outpost's life support systems and the occasional whir of drones patrolling the perimeter. At first, it was just a flicker on the monitors. A pulse, irregular and unidentifiable. It did not match any known signal from human or Earth technology. The communications officer squinted at the display, adjusting the frequency, trying to clear static. Then it came again, stronger, more insistent. It was a call, unmistakably deliberate, but encoded in a pattern that defied immediate recognition. "Commander, you need to see this," said the officer, voice tight with something between curiosity and fear. The commander leaned over the console, eyes narrowing. He had spent decades responding to distress calls across the most hostile sectors of human-colonized space. Yet nothing had prepared him for this. The signal didn't carry the usual human markers, no distress tone, no coordinates based on Earth standard grids. It was alien. They traced the source to a distant system in a region humans had only recently begun to chart. The planet itself was harsh, a death world by all accounts, jagged rock formations, storms that could rip a ship apart in minutes, and an atmosphere laced with toxic gases. Any human vessel entering without extreme precautions would not survive more than a few hours. Yet somehow the signal had pierced across the void, seeking help. The crew gathered around the main screen. Some whispered nervously, others exchanged skeptical glances. No one had seen intelligent life on planets like this before. The general assumption was that death worlds were sterile, inhospitable, and empty. Yet here was evidence to the contrary, a clear, desperate call. "I don't understand," muttered one of the engineers. "Why would anyone or anything on a planet like this expect us to answer?" The question hung in the air unanswered, because the truth was far stranger than anyone could imagine. The commander made the decision swiftly. "We respond. Prepare the reconnaissance ship. I want full protective measures. No one takes risks if we can avoid it, but we're going." The crew set to work, tension thick in the small metallic corridors. Every piece of equipment was double-checked, oxygen filters inspected, and emergency protocols reviewed. Despite their professionalism, unease lingered. Humans had been trained to face the unknown, but the unknown this time was not simply a wild planet or a rogue asteroid. It was a voice reaching across the void, a silent plea from beings who might not even understand the concept of human life or death. As they launched, the outside world faded into darkness. Stars stretched into long streaks as the ship accelerated, engines humming with power. Inside, the team huddled around the screens, watching the alien signal pulse rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. It was mesmerizing and frightening at the same time. Hours passed. The signal grew stronger as they approached, guiding them like a beacon through the stormy void. And then they saw it, a shape moving across the planet's surface. From orbit, it was almost unrecognizable. A cluster of structures that seemed alive in some way. Colors shifted unpredictably, reflecting the planet's strange atmosphere. "Are those buildings?" asked one of the young crew members, voice trembling. The commander shook his head. "Structures, maybe, or something that evolved to survive here. Either way, someone or something is alive down there." They prepared the landing craft carefully. Every surface was coated with protective shielding. Every sensor was primed for rapid response. The crew knew the stories of death worlds, of teams that had ventured out and never returned. But the signal persisted, a clear cry for help. No one could ignore it. The descent was rough. Winds tore at the craft, throwing it sideways, battering it against jagged cliffs. The crew gripped their seats, eyes wide. The atmosphere was toxic, the sensors warning of high radiation and corrosive gases. And yet through the chaos, the signal continued, guiding them to a narrow canyon. When they finally touched down, the silence was absolute. The engines of the landing craft wound down, leaving only the harsh wind against the rocks. The team stepped out, suits hissing as they adjusted to the hostile environment. Every step was measured, every glance was cautious. Then faintly they heard it, not through the monitors but through the very ground itself. A subtle vibration, almost like footsteps, echoing in a rhythm that seemed intentional. It was a presence. They were not alone. "Keep your scanners active," the commander ordered. "We don't know what we're dealing with." Moving carefully through the canyon, the team noticed signs of intelligent life. Structures that seemed carved into the rock, patterns that could only have been made with purpose, markings that pulsed faintly, as if alive. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. This planet was alive in ways they had never imagined, and then they saw movement. Not human, not like anything recorded in their databases. Slender figures with translucent skin reflecting the alien sunlight emerged from the shadows. Their eyes were large, luminous, full of fear and hope at the same time. The beings stopped at a distance, unsure, watching the humans. The signal had worked. They had reached help. But the creature's expression was not relief. It was confusion, almost disbelief. They had sent a distress call, but they had not expected this kind of response. The commander stepped forward slowly, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "We received your signal. We came to help." The aliens exchanged glances, whispering in a language that the crew could not understand. Yet somehow the meaning was clear. They had reached the edge of survival, and humans, strange, unpredictable, and dangerous, had answered their call. No one spoke. The wind howled around them. The canyon seemed to close in, and the sky above shimmered with unnatural colors. The crew realized that this moment, fragile and fleeting, was unprecedented. Humanity had crossed into a space where survival was not guaranteed, yet compassion had bridged the stars. For the first time, the humans understood the weight of the signal. It was not just a call for help. It was a test, a question across the void. Would they come? And they had answered. The aliens took a hesitant step forward, and one of the crew members noticed the small devices they carried, flickering with the same pulse as the original signal. It was a form of communication, a fragile bridge between worlds. And for the first time, the team realized that they were part of something much larger, a story of survival, empathy, and courage that would echo across the galaxy. As night fell over the jagged cliffs, the humans and aliens faced each other in tense silence, both sides aware that the days ahead would be dangerous, unpredictable. But in that moment, one truth was clear. Help had arrived when it was needed most, and the universe had grown a little smaller because of it. The commander looked at his crew, their faces illuminated by the alien light. "We begin tomorrow," he said simply, and though no one fully understood what tomorrow would bring, there was a shared sense of hope. For the first time, the team felt that humanity's reach into the stars was not just about survival, technology, or conquest. It was about connection, about answering a call even when the cost was unknown, about being the strange, resilient, unstoppable force that some beings had never imagined would ever respond. And in that harsh, unforgiving canyon on a death world, that simple act of answering a distress call became the first step toward a story no one could have predicted, a story that would change both species forever. The first night on the canyon was tense. The humans huddled in their landing craft, the alien structures looming just beyond the faint glow of their lights. None of the crew had slept much. The air inside the craft was thick with questions, excitement, and a quiet fear. Every so often they could see the faint pulse from the aliens' devices like tiny heartbeats in the darkness. The commander broke the silence. "We'll need to understand their needs first. We can't just throw technology or supplies and expect it to help. We have to listen, watch, and learn." The crew nodded. They had trained for countless scenarios, but this was unlike anything they had ever prepared for. There were no manuals, no protocols, no previous missions that mirrored this situation. Every step had to be measured, every gesture careful. At dawn, the wind calmed slightly, and the canyon revealed more of its secrets. The alien structures were not solid like buildings humans were used to. They seemed almost alive, flexible, shimmering with faint colors and reacting subtly to movement around them. The humans watched as the aliens moved within and around the structures, their motions deliberate but cautious. One of the crew suggested trying to communicate through light signals. The aliens' devices pulsed in patterns, and after several attempts a sequence seemed to match. A simple rhythm repeated, almost like a question. "Who are you?" The commander smiled faintly. "Simple answers first. Let's show them we mean no harm." Using the craft's lights and a combination of sounds, the humans sent a short signal identifying themselves as humans, explorers, and helpers. The response was slow at first. Then, The aliens' pulses changed, slightly faster, more rhythmic, as if acknowledging that the message had been received. Encouraged, the crew cautiously stepped out of the craft. Every step was careful, every motion observed. The aliens, sensing no immediate threat, allowed the humans to approach. The air was thin, and the humans relied on their suits, but the aliens seemed unaffected by the harsh environment. Their movements were fluid, almost like they had adapted perfectly to the planet's conditions over centuries. One of the scientists noticed a faint trail of markings leading into a deeper section of the canyon. "They're trying to show us something," he said. "Follow them, but stay alert." The team followed, keeping their distance, allowing the aliens to guide them. The path wound through jagged rocks, past glowing plants that seemed to breathe in sync with the alien pulses. The canyon grew narrower, the cliffs taller, and the wind stronger. Yet the aliens moved confidently, almost as if they had mapped this terrain perfectly in their minds. Eventually, they reached a large open area where the ground was smoother. In the center lay a large structure different from the others. It seemed more fragile, with thin walls that shimmered in shades of violet and green. Around it, several smaller beings were gathered, some visibly weak, some moving with difficulty. The commander knelt slightly, signaling to the crew to do the same. "This is why they called for help," he said quietly. "We need to assess their condition carefully." The aliens allowed the humans to approach slowly. The first humans to step forward were medics. They scanned the smaller beings with portable devices, careful to respect the alien environment. The readings showed low energy levels, signs of exhaustion, and irregular vital signs. None of this was lethal, but without proper support, the situation could worsen rapidly. One of the weaker beings moved slightly, and a pulse from its device matched the rhythm of the human's heartbeats. The medics noted the pattern. It was as if the aliens had developed a natural empathy system, connecting with others through light and vibration. The commander turned to his team. "We need to establish basic support, energy, warmth, and protection. Then we can figure out why their situation became critical." The humans worked carefully. They set up portable energy shields, providing a controlled environment for the weaker aliens. They deployed heaters and atmospheric stabilizers to create a safe pocket in the canyon. The aliens watched silently, their pulses fluctuating with curiosity and cautious hope. As the humans worked, one of the medics noticed something extraordinary. The alien physiology seemed designed for survival in extreme conditions, yet when deprived of certain environmental factors, their systems could fail quickly. It was a delicate balance. Survival depended not just on physical endurance but on environmental harmony. By evening, a tentative trust had formed. The aliens allowed the humans closer, guiding them through small gestures, pulses, and movements. One of the adults, slightly stronger, approached the commander and projected a series of pulses. With the help of the crew's portable translators, it became clear. The aliens had faced a catastrophic environmental collapse in part of the canyon. Some kind of storm or seismic activity had destroyed portions of their habitat, and they were struggling to sustain the remaining population. The commander nodded solemnly. "We'll do everything we can. You're not alone now." Over the next few hours, the humans worked with careful precision. They reinforced fragile structures, stabilized weak aliens, and began mapping the canyon for safe zones. Every interaction, every gesture strengthened the fragile bridge between species. The aliens began to respond with curiosity, exploring human tools, observing methods, and even mimicking movements as if trying to understand the humans' abilities and intentions. The night grew colder, and the wind howled with renewed intensity. Yet for the first time, the canyon did not feel entirely hostile. There was an unspoken understanding. Humans were here to help, and the aliens had begun to trust them slowly but steadily. During a brief pause, the commander gathered the team. "Remember, this is just the beginning. We're not just fixing problems. We're building understanding. Every action we take, every decision matters." The crew nodded, fatigue visible but determination stronger. Each of them felt the weight of the moment. They were not just explorers or rescuers. They were ambassadors in a first encounter that could shape the future of two species. A strange calm settled over the canyon as the hours passed. The weaker aliens rested under the protection of the humans' equipment, while the stronger ones patrolled the area, ensuring safety. For the first time, the canyon seemed to breathe with life, in a rhythm shared between humans and aliens. By morning, small breakthroughs began to appear. One of the younger aliens approached a medic and touched a device gently. The medic responded, mimicking the gesture, and the device's pulse synchronized with the human heartbeat. It was a simple act, but it marked the first real connection, a proof that communication could go beyond words, beyond technology, into understanding and empathy. The commander observed silently. He knew the road ahead would be challenging. The alien's habitat was fragile, the planet unforgiving and survival uncertain. Yet he also understood something profound. Trust had been established. A fragile, delicate trust, but one that could grow stronger. As the humans prepared for another day of careful work, the alien adults gathered near the shimmered central structure. Their pulses formed patterns almost like a message. Gratitude, recognition, and something else, curiosity. They wanted to know more about these beings who had crossed the void to answer their call. The crew settled in for another night. Exhaustion heavy, but spirits buoyed. Every human felt it. This was no ordinary mission. They were part of a story that would be told for generations. A story of connection, courage, and the simple yet extraordinary act of answering a call for help. Outside, the canyon whispered with alien winds, carrying faint pulses that mirrored the human's own heartbeat rhythms. Somewhere in the distance, the storm that had devastated part of the canyon earlier rumbled faintly, but now it was tempered by the human's presence. Survival, hope, and understanding had begun to bloom in the harshest of conditions. And so, as the stars above shimmered faintly, humans and aliens rested side by side, bound by a fragile thread of trust and the knowledge that the first step toward mutual understanding had been taken. The story was only beginning, but in that canyon, on that death world, a seed had been planted, a seed that promised that even in the harshest corners of the universe, connection and hope could thrive. Next morning, the canyon seemed quieter, almost as if it were holding its breath. The humans woke early, alert and ready, knowing that each day could bring unexpected challenges. The aliens, now more confident, moved among the structures with cautious curiosity, their pulses forming gentle, rhythmic patterns that seemed almost like a language the humans could begin to understand. The commander gathered the crew. "We need to explore deeper into the canyon," he said. "We have to understand the source of their distress. It's not enough to just stabilize the weaker ones. We need to know why this place is so dangerous and how we can help them survive long term." The medics, engineers, and scientists prepared their equipment carefully. Every tool, every sensor, and every protective measure was checked and double-checked. The canyon was unforgiving and mistakes could cost lives. Yet there was an unspoken excitement in the team. They were stepping into the unknown, a place no human had ever set foot, and their actions could change the course of two species forever. As they moved deeper, the canyon walls grew taller, their jagged edges cutting off much of the sunlight. Strange, faintly glowing plants clung to the rocks, swaying as if moved by some invisible current. The wind was stronger here, whipping around the humans' suits and rattling their equipment. But the aliens moved effortlessly, leading the way, their pulses guiding the humans through paths that would otherwise have been invisible or treacherous. The deeper they went, the more they noticed signs of environmental collapse. Portions of the canyon floor had sunk, creating deep cracks. Small geysers of toxic gas hissed intermittently from fissures, and in some places, the rock itself seemed to shimmer under pressure, almost like the planet was alive and responding to the disturbance. One of the engineers paused, scanning the area. "The terrain is unstable. Some sections might collapse at any moment," he said. "We need to proceed carefully. One wrong step and the path back could be gone." The commander nodded. "We stick together. No one moves ahead alone. Observe everything, record everything. This canyon has already cost too much. We cannot risk more." As they moved cautiously, they discovered remnants of what appeared to be older structures, now broken and buried beneath layers of rock and debris. Evidence suggested that the aliens' population had once been larger, but environmental disasters and natural hazards had destroyed much of their previous habitat. The remaining aliens were survivors of multiple catastrophic events, resilient but vulnerable. One of the scientists studied the broken structures. "These designs are incredible," he said softly. "They're not just shelters. They seem to regulate energy, temperature, and even atmospheric quality. Whoever built this understood the planet intimately." The aliens observed the humans silently, their pulses slightly faster as if reacting to the attention being paid to their past. The humans realized that this canyon held not just danger, but the history of a civilization struggling to survive in impossible conditions. Eventually, the group reached a plateau where the canyon opened slightly, revealing a massive fissure that stretched for kilometers. From this vantage point, the humans could see the scale of the destruction: collapsed rock formations, twisted structures, and deep pits where the weaker aliens had once sought refuge. "This is the epicenter," the commander said quietly. "Whatever caused this, it's why they sent the signal. If we can stabilize this area, we can protect the remaining population." The aliens hesitated at the edge of the fissure, as if understanding the danger themselves, but unsure how to navigate it. One of the adults approached the commander, projecting a series of pulses that, with the help of the translators, roughly conveyed a message. They had tried to contain the damage but lacked the tools and strength to do more. The humans set to work immediately. Using portable energy stabilizers, they reinforced fragile rock formations. Engineers deployed sensors to monitor the fissure's movements, while medics assisted the aliens in staying safe as they helped guide the operations. It was slow, meticulous work, but progress was visible. Hours passed with no break. The canyon's wind roared through the fissures, and at times, the humans had to secure themselves to avoid being blown off balance. Yet, in the midst of danger, moments of connection emerged. One of the younger aliens mimicked a human gesture of encouragement, raising a thin arm in a sign of solidarity. A medic smiled beneath her helmet and gave a thumbs up in return. It was a small act, but it carried more meaning than words ever could. By late afternoon, they had managed to stabilize a section of the fissure enough to create a safe zone. The weaker aliens were moved here, guided by both humans and stronger members of their species. For the first time in weeks, perhaps months, they had a space where they could rest without immediate threat. The commander watched the scene with a mixture of relief and concern. "We're making progress, but this is just a start," he said. "We need to understand the larger system of this canyon. Why does it collapse? How do these natural hazards work together?" The scientists began detailed studies, taking samples of the rock, the air, and the strange glowing plants. They observed the patterns of geysers and seismic activity, trying to predict which areas might become dangerous next. It was a delicate balance. Study too closely and risk collapse, move too slowly, and the aliens could be endangered again. As the humans worked, the aliens stayed close, observing and learning. Some of them even began to assist in minor ways, using their natural abilities to sense unstable areas or move debris with precision that human hands could not match. The cooperation between species was growing, slowly building trust and mutual respect. Evening fell, casting long shadows across the fissure. The humans and aliens gathered in the safe zone, exhausted but proud of the day's work. The weaker aliens rested, their pulses slower and steadier. The stronger ones patrolled nearby, still wary of the canyon's dangers, but more confident with the humans' presence. The commander took a moment to speak to his team. "We've done something important today," he said. "Not just survival work, but something bigger. We've shown them that humans can be allies, that we can share knowledge, and that we're willing to risk ourselves to help them." A medic nodded, smiling beneath her helmet. "It's incredible. They're starting to trust us. They're showing us their world, bit by bit." The night was long, filled with subtle noises. The wind through the canyon, the soft pulses of the aliens' devices, and the occasional shift of rock or debris. Yet for the first time, the humans felt a sense of stability. They had created a foothold, a small area where life could continue, and in doing so, had taken the first real step toward long-term survival for the aliens. As sleep finally claimed the exhausted humans, they dreamed not just of danger but of hope. They imagined a future where the canyon could be safe, where humans and aliens could coexist, and where distress signals would no longer be cries of desperation, but calls for cooperation and connection. Outside, the canyon seemed to breathe with a new rhythm, harmonizing the pulses of both species. The humans had crossed a threshold. They were no longer mere observers or rescuers. They were participants in a story that had already been written in the rocks, the wind, and the lights of an alien world, a story of survival, trust, and the fragile but powerful bonds that could form even in the most hostile environments. The commander glanced at the canyon one last time before entering the temporary shelter. "Tomorrow we go further," he said softly. "There is more to understand, more to protect, and more to build. This is just the beginning, and every step counts, and so, as the stars shimmered faintly above the jagged cliffs, humans and aliens rested side by side, bound together by trust, courage, and the shared knowledge that they had survived one more day on a death world, and that together they might survive many more. The morning light filtered weakly through the jagged canyon walls, casting long, shifting shadows across the safe zone the humans had established. The previous day's efforts had bought them some stability, but the dangers of the canyon were far from over. The commander gathered the team, his face serious but determined. "We've stabilized a portion of the canyon," he said, "but the source of the collapse and storms is still unknown. Today we go deeper, further than we have before. We need to map the canyon and understand how the environment works, or these aliens won't survive long term." The team prepared carefully. Every suit, tool, and sensor was inspected. Medics checked the portable oxygen systems, engineers reinforced harnesses and ropes, and scientists recalibrated scanners to detect environmental anomalies. Every human knew that even a small mistake could lead to disaster in a canyon that seemed alive, breathing its own dangerous rhythm. The aliens waited nearby, their luminous bodies shifting softly in the light. They had begun to trust the humans more, following instructions without hesitation. Some of the stronger aliens assisted in clearing paths, using their innate abilities to sense unstable areas. Small pulses of light communicated directions and warnings, and the humans had begun to understand these signals, responding in kind. The journey into the canyon was tense. The walls grew taller, narrowing the path, and the wind roared with unpredictable strength. Dust and small debris were kicked up by sudden gusts, making it difficult to see. Sensors picked up vibrations beneath their feet, subtle but constant reminders that the ground was fragile, and one wrong step could trigger a collapse. The commander signaled the team to stop. Ahead they could see a series of fissures crisscrossing the canyon floor. Some emitted faint glowing gases, while others seemed to hum, vibrating with the energy of the planet. The aliens paused, their pulses quickening as if warning the humans of the danger. "We need to find a safe path," said the engineer, "but we also need to figure out what's causing these fissures and vibrations. If we just patch things up without understanding the cause, it'll be temporary." Carefully, the humans moved forward, testing the stability of each step with specialized tools. The aliens walked beside them, guiding and signaling hazards that the scanners could not detect. The canyon was full of surprises, small rock slides, hidden geysers of toxic gases, and areas where the ground seemed to shift like liquid beneath their feet. Hours passed, and the team's patience and skill were tested. One wrong move could lead to disaster. Yet the humans and aliens moved together with a rhythm that slowly became almost intuitive. Each pulse from the aliens seemed to warn of danger, while every cautious step by the humans reassured the aliens. Trust and communication were being built in real time, in the harshest conditions imaginable. Eventually, they reached a section of the canyon that was unlike anything they had seen before. Towering rock formations created a natural labyrinth, and the ground was cracked and uneven. In the center, a large fissure emitted a strange, steady glow. The sensors picked up high-energy readings. Something beneath the surface was moving, pulsating, alive in a way that humans could barely comprehend. "This might be the source of the collapses," the commander said quietly. "We need to understand it before we can secure this canyon." The scientists began scanning the fissure, taking readings of the gases, vibrations, and energy patterns. The readings were unlike anything recorded in human databases. The energy seemed to interact with the planet itself, causing the rock to shift, creating micro-earthquakes in unstable areas. It was a natural system, but one so extreme that the aliens' survival depended on understanding it perfectly. The aliens moved closer to the fissure, their pulses slowing, as if they were trying to communicate with the humans through light patterns. One of the medics held up a device to translate, and for the first time the message became clear. The fissure was not only a natural hazard, but a vital part of the canyon's ecosystem. It provided energy to the living structures and plants, but when the balance was disrupted, the entire area became deadly. "We can't just stop it," said the scientist. "We have to stabilize the balance. We need to work with it, not against it." The team set up monitoring stations around the fissure, carefully calculating how to stabilize the surrounding rocks without disturbing the natural energy flow. Engineers worked with the aliens, who used their abilities to sense weaknesses in the ground. Medics and scientists observed the aliens closely, learning how their bodies adapted to the extreme conditions. Every detail mattered. Every observation could be the difference between survival and catastrophe. By mid-afternoon, the team had managed to secure a wider perimeter. They reinforced the surrounding rocks, created barriers against potential rock slides, and deployed sensors to monitor changes in real time. The aliens observed closely, occasionally touching the devices and watching their pulses respond. Small gestures of cooperation emerged, aliens and humans working side by side, relying on trust and shared purpose. Despite the progress, the canyon was still unpredictable. A sudden tremor shook the ground, sending small rocks tumbling down the cliffs. The humans braced and the aliens responded instantly, guiding weaker members away from danger. The commander signaled calm, but his heart raced. Even with all precautions, the planet was still a death world. Beautiful, mysterious, but unforgiving. As the team worked to secure the area further, one of the younger aliens approached a human medic. It touched the medic's arm gently, and their pulses synced in a brief moment of shared rhythm. It was simple, silent, but profoundly meaningful. The humans realized that connection could be made in many ways, not just through words or technology. Empathy and understanding could bridge worlds. The day wore on, and the canyon revealed more secrets. Strange glowing plants seemed to react to human presence, emitting faint energy pulses. Small creatures barely visible scuttled across the rocks, retreating at the humans' careful movements. Every discovery reminded the team that the canyon was alive in ways they had never imagined. And the aliens were not just survivors, they were guardians of a fragile, intricate ecosystem. By evening, a fragile calm returned. The humans and aliens gathered in a safer part of the plateau, exhausted but satisfied. The fissure had been stabilized temporarily, and the immediate danger to the weaker aliens had been reduced. Yet everyone knew this was just one step in a long journey. The commander spoke quietly to the crew. "We've made progress, but we've only scratched the surface. This canyon is alive, and we need to understand it completely. Today we learned that we can work with it, but tomorrow will bring new challenges. Stay alert, stay together, and keep observing. Every moment counts." The aliens seemed to respond, their pulses forming gentle patterns that suggested gratitude, recognition, and trust. They had witnessed humans not just as rescuers, but as partners. It was a delicate bond, fragile but growing, and it would be crucial in the days to come. Night fell, and the stars above the canyon shimmered faintly, reflecting in the glowing fissures below. Humans and aliens rested together side by side, connected in ways both obvious and subtle. The humans had learned the canyon's dangers and begun to understand its rhythms. The aliens had learned that these strange beings from another world were capable of empathy, courage, and partnership. As sleep claimed the exhausted humans, they dreamed of the challenges ahead, but also of the possibilities. The canyon was dangerous, but it was also alive with potential. Together, humans and aliens could survive, adapt, and perhaps even thrive in a place that had once seemed impossible. The commander, lying awake briefly before closing his eyes, reflected on the day. He realized that the canyon was teaching them something important. Survival was not just about strength or technology. It was about understanding, cooperation, and the willingness to step into the unknown for the sake of others. And in that moment, high above the glowing fissures and shifting cliffs, the humans and aliens shared a silent promise. They would face whatever challenges came next together. They would protect one another, and they would continue to learn from each other in a story that was still unfolding. One day, one step, and one pulse at a time. The following morning brought a heavy, almost tangible tension to the canyon. Though the previous days had been about discovery and careful stabilization, today felt different. The air itself seemed charged, vibrating with the same unpredictable energy that had created the fissures and storms. The humans and aliens gathered early, the commander's face grim but determined. "We've learned a lot about this canyon," he said quietly, "but knowledge alone won't save lives. Today we need to act decisively. There's a deeper section where the terrain is even more unstable, and we've received indications that the aliens' larger population may be at risk there." The team prepared their equipment meticulously. Ropes, energy stabilizers, protective shields, and scanning devices were all checked and double-checked. Medics adjusted oxygen systems and checked every sensor. Engineers reinforced climbing harnesses, while scientists recalibrated environmental monitors. Every detail mattered. The canyon had already tested their limits once, and they knew it could do so again. The aliens, more confident now, guided the humans toward the deeper section. Their pulses formed a clear, steady rhythm, warning the humans of unstable areas and leading them through narrow paths. Yet even with guidance, each step was cautious. Rocks shifted underfoot, and the occasional hiss of toxic gases reminded the humans that danger was never far away. As they progressed, the canyon revealed new challenges. Massive rock slabs jutted from the cliffs at odd angles, creating natural barriers. Hidden fissures released bursts of gas and energy, shaking the ground unpredictably. The humans had to carefully test each path with sensors before moving forward. Every small misstep could trigger a collapse or block the only exit back to safety. Suddenly, a tremor shook the canyon violently. Loose rocks tumbled down, and the wind roared through narrow passages with unprecedented force. The humans grabbed onto stable rock formations while the aliens quickly moved the weaker members to safety. It was a reminder that, no matter how careful they were, the canyon was still a death world, beautiful, alive, and deadly all at once. The commander signaled calm and directed the team to form a protective perimeter. "Everyone stay alert," he said. "We need to reach the central area. The population there depends on us." The deeper section was a labyrinth of jagged cliffs, glowing plants, and narrow ledges. The humans followed the aliens' guidance, learning to interpret subtle pulses of light and vibration as warnings. They observed how the aliens moved through the terrain, adapting effortlessly to hazards that humans had to carefully navigate. Trust had grown steadily over the past days, but the canyon's dangers tested it constantly. Hours passed, and the team finally reached the central area. What they saw took their breath away. The surviving aliens had gathered in a cluster near a large, fragile structure. Many were weak, some collapsed completely, while the stronger ones tried to hold up debris and protect others. The humans quickly realized that previous natural disasters had reduced this population to near desperation. Medics immediately set to work, stabilizing the weakest aliens. They deployed portable shields, atmospheric stabilizers, and energy packs to provide temporary relief. The aliens, in turn, assisted where they could, using their innate abilities to sense instability and guide the humans. Together, they began forming a network of support in the middle of the canyon, a combination of technology, instinct, and empathy. But the canyon was far from stable. The glowing fissures surrounding the area pulsed irregularly, and sensors indicated an impending tremor. The commander knew that if the team did not act fast, the entire section could collapse. "Engineers, reinforce the supports," he shouted. "Medics, keep the weaker ones safe. Everyone else, monitor the surrounding terrain." The humans moved swiftly, deploying stabilizers and tying down loose rock formations. The aliens worked in sync, their pulses guiding the humans to the most unstable areas. Despite the chaos, the team operated with precision and calm, each member relying on the others. Then the first tremor hit. The ground shook violently, sending small rocks tumbling down and kicking up clouds of dust. The humans and aliens braced themselves, holding their positions while the equipment absorbed much of the impact. The weaker aliens were protected inside the shields, their pulses now slower and steadier thanks to the stabilization. The second tremor was stronger. A large rock slab began to topple, threatening the entire cluster. The humans reacted instantly, tying it to adjacent rocks with reinforced cables while the aliens directed others to safer positions. Every second counted. Hours felt like minutes as the team worked through the tremors. Sweat dripped inside helmets, muscles ached, and lungs burned in the thin, toxic air. Yet no one wavered. Each human understood the stakes. Each alien sensed the trust that had formed. Together they held the canyon at bay, keeping the population alive. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the tremors subsided. The canyon settled into a fragile calm, and the team allowed themselves a brief moment of relief. The central area was still standing, the aliens were mostly safe, and the immediate danger had passed. But the commander knew that survival here was temporary without a long-term solution. He gathered the team. "We've saved lives today, but this canyon is still alive and unpredictable. We need to learn more, adapt, and be ready for whatever comes next. But today proves that we can face even the deadliest challenges when we work together." The aliens responded with pulses of light, almost like applause, acknowledging the humans' efforts. Some of the weaker members moved slowly, testing their strength while the stronger ones circled the area, alert but reassured. The humans realized that their presence had given the aliens not just immediate safety, but hope, something rare and precious in this harsh environment. As evening fell, the canyon took on a different character. Shadows lengthened, and the glowing fissures cast eerie patterns across the rocks. Yet despite the beauty, caution was necessary. The humans set up temporary shelters, monitored the surrounding energy, and kept the medics ready for emergencies. During a quiet moment, one of the younger aliens approached a human scientist. Its pulses formed a gentle rhythm, syncing with the human's heartbeat. The translator confirmed a simple, profound message: gratitude, trust, and a desire for continued cooperation. It was a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had forged through danger and shared effort. The commander watched this exchange, a sense of pride and humility washing over him. He knew that this mission was about more than survival or exploration. It was about connection, understanding, and the courage to cross impossible boundaries for the sake of others. Night in the canyon was long and tense. Wind howled through fissures and small tremors occasionally shook the ground. Yet the humans and aliens rested side by side, knowing they had survived one of the deadliest days the canyon had presented so far. Every individual had played a role, and trust had been cemented in ways that words alone could not describe. As the stars shimmered overhead, reflecting in the glowing fissures, the humans understood something vital. Survival on this death world was not about strength alone, but about empathy, cooperation, and the willingness to face danger together. The aliens in turn had learned that humans could be more than just unpredictable beings. They could be allies, partners, and protectors. The commander took one last look at the canyon before settling in for rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and perhaps new discoveries. But for now, they had proven that even in the harshest, most unforgiving environment, trust and cooperation could create a fragile, enduring sanctuary. And in that canyon, amidst jagged cliffs, glowing fissures, and the whispered pulses of life, humans and aliens shared a moment of quiet triumph. They had faced the death world together and survived. The sun rose slowly over the jagged canyon, painting the rocks in hues of gold and crimson. After the previous day's tremors and chaos, the humans and aliens awoke to a fragile calm. The canyon seemed quieter now, almost respectful, as if acknowledging the efforts that had stabilized it. But the commander knew better. This death world was unpredictable, and survival required vigilance, understanding, and constant adaptation. The team gathered early, reviewing the work completed over the past days. Portable stabilizers had reinforced the most dangerous fissures. Weak aliens had been relocated to safer areas, and monitoring devices kept constant watch on the canyon's activity. Yet this was not the end. The canyon held secrets that could not be ignored, mysteries that might still threaten the lives of the remaining alien population. "We've done what we can for now," the commander said, addressing the team. "But the canyon itself holds the key to their survival. Today we need to understand it fully, map it completely, and prepare long-term solutions. Only then can we ensure these beings are safe." The aliens moved close, their luminous bodies flickering with curiosity. Their pulses formed rhythmic patterns signaling readiness and cooperation. Over the past days, the humans had learned to interpret these patterns. They were no longer just warnings or simple messages. They were signs of trust, communication, and even emotion. The journey into the deeper canyon began. With each step, the humans observed how the aliens moved with grace and precision. They seemed almost like part of the canyon itself, adapted to its extremes. The humans, in contrast, had to rely on tools, careful planning, and teamwork. Yet together, the two species had formed an unspoken rhythm, trust guiding every move, understanding guiding every decision. As they descended, they came across an enormous chasm. The fissures around it pulsed with energy, and the ground vibrated slightly beneath their feet. Sensors detected irregular energy patterns, more intense than anything they had seen before. It was clear that this was the central source of the canyon's instability, the heart of the natural forces that had endangered the aliens' population. "We need to be careful," said one of the scientists. "This is the source of everything. One wrong move and the canyon could collapse entirely." The commander nodded. "We proceed cautiously. Observe record, stabilize, and above all, work with the aliens. They understand this place better than we ever could. The team carefully deployed stabilizers along the edges of the chasm. Engineers worked with the aliens who used their abilities to sense the weakest points in the rock. Medics stayed close to the weaker members, ensuring their safety. Scientists scanned the energy pulses, trying to understand how the canyon's natural systems interacted. Hours passed with painstaking care. The humans learned that the canyon's energy flows were not random. They followed patterns almost like a heartbeat, a rhythm that the aliens could sense intuitively. By observing these patterns, they could predict small tremors and dangerous shifts. Using this knowledge, they adjusted the stabilizers, creating a delicate balance between intervention and natural flow. As they worked, a sudden gust of wind swept through the canyon, stronger than anything before. Dust and debris flew, and one of the smaller alien structures teetered dangerously. The humans acted instantly, reinforcing it with portable barriers while the aliens guided the weaker members to safety. Every second mattered. Every action had consequences. By mid-afternoon, a breakthrough occurred. The scientists discovered that the glowing fissures were part of a natural energy network that sustained the canyon's life forms. The canyon was alive in more ways than they had realized. Its pulses provided power to the plants, regulated the atmosphere, and even affected the aliens' physiology. Understanding this network was the key to long-term survival. The humans adjusted their equipment to work with the canyon rather than against it. Stabilizers were carefully tuned to align with the energy pulses, preventing collapses while preserving the canyon's natural flow. The aliens observed closely, assisting where possible, and their pulses reflected approval and gratitude. By evening, the central area had been secured. The weaker aliens were safe, the structures stabilized, and the canyon's energy network partially understood. It was a monumental achievement, but it came at the cost of exhaustion. The humans and aliens gathered in the safe zone, the fading light casting long shadows across the jagged cliffs. The commander addressed the team. "We've done more than survive. We've begun to understand this place, and in doing so, we've earned trust. These aliens now know that we're not just visitors, we're partners. That trust is fragile, but it's the foundation for everything that comes next." The aliens responded with gentle pulses, a silent language of respect and connection. Some of the weaker members moved slowly, testing their strength, while the stronger ones patrolled nearby, assured by the humans' presence. For the first time, the canyon seemed not just dangerous, but alive with possibility. Night fell, and a strange calm settled over the canyon. The stars above twinkled faintly, mirrored in the glowing fissures below. Humans and aliens rested side by side, connected not just by survival, but by shared experience, empathy, and trust. During a quiet moment, one of the younger aliens approached the commander. Its pulses synced briefly with the human's heartbeat, a gesture of understanding and gratitude that needed no words. The commander smiled beneath his helmet, realizing that connection could exist in many forms beyond language or technology. The next day brought the final stage of their work. The humans, guided by the aliens, moved to survey the entire canyon, mapping every fissure, structure, and energy source. They identified areas that could be reinforced long-term, zones that needed constant monitoring, and safe havens where the alien population could thrive. Every observation was recorded, every decision carefully made. As they worked, the canyon revealed more of its beauty. Glowing plants shimmered in response to their presence. Strange creatures scuttled safely out of reach, and the rock formations seemed to hum in harmony with the stabilized energy flows. The humans realized that the canyon was not just a death world. It was a living ecosystem, fragile but vibrant, demanding respect and understanding. By afternoon, the mapping was complete. The humans and aliens had created a plan for long-term survival, reinforced shelters, safe zones, monitoring systems, and a method to work with the canyon's energy pulses rather than against them. It was a blueprint for coexistence, a way for life to continue in a place that had once seemed impossible. The aliens gathered in the central area, their pulses forming complex patterns of light and energy. The humans observed, understanding that this was a ceremony of trust and gratitude. The bond between species had been forged through danger, cooperation, and mutual respect. It was more than survival. It was recognition of shared purpose. The commander addressed the team one last time. "We came here to answer a distress call," he said. We leave having built something much greater. We've proven that connection, trust, and courage can overcome even the harshest conditions. This canyon will continue to challenge life, but now it has allies. As the humans prepared to depart, the aliens escorted them to the landing area. Pulses of light and energy guided their path. A final gesture of gratitude and recognition. The humans understood that they had left a lasting mark, not through conquest, but through understanding, empathy, and cooperation. The engines of the landing craft hummed to life, lifting them gently from the canyon floor. The humans looked back at the jagged cliffs, the glowing fissures, and the alien structures. They had faced a death world, survived, and forged a bond that spanned species and worlds. As the ship climbed toward orbit, the commander reflected on the journey. The canyon had tested them, taught them, and changed them. They had learned that survival was never about strength alone, but about connection, trust, and the willingness to face the unknown together. The aliens watched from below, their pulses slowly fading into the canyon's rhythm, now steady and secure. Life would continue here, resilient and vibrant, sustained by the cooperation that had emerged in the face of danger. For the humans, the mission was over. But the story they had been part of, the story of answering a distress call from a death world, would remain with them forever. It was a story of courage, empathy, and the extraordinary power of connection. And in that moment, as the ship disappeared into the stars, the canyon below seemed to breathe peacefully. The humans had left a legacy of trust, and the aliens had gained hope that even in the harshest corners of the universe, survival was possible, and not just survival, but life, cooperation, and shared purpose. It was a quiet triumph, a moment of understanding that stretched across worlds. The canyon had been conquered not by force, but by humanity's willingness to reach out, to understand, and to help. And in doing so, two species had discovered that even in the vastness of space, compassion could bridge the greatest distances.